Pretty much. End of the world as we know it. But I feel fine. I hope you do too. Hi, YouTubers. Another exciting episode of Current Christian Commentary and News with your host, whoop whoop, as Blake Shelton does on The Voice. I'm your host, Pastor Steve. Today's Friday, June 3rd. Just a quick weekend update for you to have some homework to do over the weekend. Also, next week on June 6, 2016, 666, Satanists and occultists are getting ready to pull out all the stops, folks. When you have Satanists requesting the opening prayer in a little town down here near the Mexican border called Sarita, Arizona, you know things are getting out of hand. See my video about the arches of Baal and the prophets of Baal. Folks, it's all coming together, headed towards the New World Order, helped and expedited by dark forces, and it brings me no pleasure to say, including the president, the current president of the United States, who I'm going to talk a little bit about today. But just a quick segment for you. See my videos. You know, those of you that have known me for several years, you know that I've always been the eternal skeptic. I've always been one to just investigate, and there's so much going on in the web right now. You know, you certainly can't believe everything you hear. But when it came to Sandy Hook, you remember that alleged shooting of poor innocent children. When I started to look at the evidence of that, and you do your own homework, okay? Nothing about that. Just nothing adds up. It's just, I believe it was a plot by Eric Holder and President Obama to create such a cataclysmic event, a staged event, that it would help get guns out of the hands of law-abiding citizens. And it plays right into the hands of Agent Brian Terry, who was shot and killed just down the road from me, literally one exit away, with a gun supplied to the Mexican cartel by the United States government. So the idea that our government could supply weapons to criminals, knowing full well or hoping that the result of the violence would make people just finally just say, oh, enough, you know, let's get rid of all the guns, which, you know, many dupes have been convinced that's the right thing to do. But you know, folks, if they don't take away your guns, then they're not going to be able to take away your freedom. And we're seeing a government closing more and more in on us like never before. Some thank Eric Snowden for bringing this to attention, the high-tech levels of snooping and eavesdropping that they're doing on us now. Your cell phone. Obviously, these broadcasts will be viewed. Maybe not mine because I'm small potatoes, but sooner or later, you know, the voice of dissidents will be silenced, and the government just is closing in on our freedoms, closing in on farmers, closing in on grazing land. Yeah, there's so many different ways you could look at this. It's crazy. But, you know, Eric Snowden said that the level, he really brought it to our attention. Some people think he's a hero. Others say he's a traitor. I'll leave that up to you. But something is getting ready to happen, folks. On May 31st, the President of the United States, President Barack Hussein Obama, May 31st, he gave a speech at the National Response Coordination Center in Washington. This is what we also refer to as FEMA. And when you start looking at, I don't know, whether it's the crash of the dollar, this country now owes over $19 trillion in debt. And I read in Forbes magazine or the Wall Street Journal, one of those, I read that if they taxed every American citizen 100%, just took all of our money all of the time, they could never pay the debt back folks, no country in the history of the world has ever been existing or continued to exist with that kind of debt. So whether the dollar crashes or the earthquakes happen or this binary system comes and I have no idea. Okay, and it might all happen all at once. Look at the video that I did a few weeks back about President Obama refusing to help Israel at the United Nations. He refused to veto a resolution against Israel. Look at the idea of splitting Jerusalem up. All this stuff is against the Bible, and when God takes his hand off, anything and everything that happens to the United States is going to be a result of his leadership or lack thereof. If you know Jesus, you have nothing to worry about. That blood, the shed blood of Jesus Christ on your heart, or as in the Old Testament, on the doorposts, means the angel of death will pass over you. And if you know Christ, if you're saved, you're going to be fine. But listen to what President Obama said for the very first time. And I think this is the first time I've ever quoted President Obama, but what he says is, one of the things that we've learned over the course of, and I'm quoting now, one of the things that we have learned over the course of the last 7.5 years is that government plays a vital role. Yeah, right. Yeah, okay. We're from the government and we're here to help you. Two of the biggest lies you've ever heard. But I digress. But it is every citizen's responsibility to be prepared for a disaster. May 31st, President Obama. And that means taking proactive steps like having an evacuation plan, having a fully stocked disaster supply kit. If your local authorities ask you to evacuate, you have to do it. Don't wait. That's the President of the United States telling us, have an evacuation plan, have a fully stocked disaster supply kit. If your local authorities ask you to evacuate, you have to do it. Can you say FEMA camps? Google that one as well, folks. Look, I can't get into the details of all this, but I'm telling you, something's up. I don't know exactly what it is. I wish the Lord would just tell me so I could tell you, but he hasn't. But I'm telling you, I'm connecting the dots here, and something's going on. You don't think that the government is listening into your phone calls. You don't think, or you think, well, there's nothing of it. If you have nothing to hide, then you have nothing to worry about. That is just such dense blockhead thinking. If you have nothing to hide, no, this country was based, the reason why this country was the greatest country in the face of the earth is because it was blessed by Almighty God, because our inalienable rights were given to us by God, and we recognized the creator of the universe, the God of the Bible, and because we recognized him and honored him as such, he blessed this country and made it the greatest country in the world. When President Obama said that he was going to fundamentally change this country, what he meant is he was going to do everything that he can to destroy it. Yes, I believe he is a traitor to the United States of America. He took an oath to uphold the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Folks, we've got a domestic enemy running the show. The inmates are running the asylum. Take a look here. This is a film that I took myself. You'll hear me talking in the background with my sarcasm. But take a look at this. This is Fox News, Greta Van Susteren interviewing a woman whose son was killed fighting for ISIS. Now, before you say, well, you know, good for him, he should have died, he was killed, I get it, but that's not the point. My point is, as she's being interviewed live on TV by Greta Van Susteren, she begins to talk about the secret spy agencies, and boom, they cut her off. Just watch this video.
ISIS is recruiting, and they're doing it in Europe and Canada and right here in America. And right now, the mother of a Canadian man who converted to Islam traveled to Syria and was killed while waging jihad with ISIS. She's fighting back, doing everything she can to shut down ISIS propaganda. That mother, Chris Boudreau, joins us. Nice to see you, Chris. And, you know, I watched your video, and it's really difficult to watch your pain, talking about your son and how you had no idea what he was off to doing. Is there anything we can say to you? I mean, how do you mend that broken heart?
I don't think you ever do. You just try to find a new way to live and make the best of what you can. There's nothing to patch it. It's a hole that's gone forever.
And you had absolutely no idea your son just all of a sudden one day left, said he was going to study in Egypt?
No idea whatsoever. I could see changes in him, but I didn't realize it was indicating anything. We had no knowledge of foreign fighters. We had no knowledge of anything that was going on with this type of phenomenon, and didn't even see it creeping up on us. And then he said he was going to Egypt to study, so we accepted that and found out later that that wasn't the case.
And when you found out that that wasn't the case, I mean, in this painful video, you talk about how you would practically press your nose to the computer screen, looking at all the ISIS videos, just trying to find your son.
And I did. At that time, I had contact with him up till December 23rd, 2012. And then he just disappeared off the radar, and I didn't know how to reach him. I didn't receive contact again from him till the end of February 2013. So during that period of time, once the Secret Intelligence Service came
Secret Intelligence Service,
what was really happening, of course, I was in a panic and needed to find out what it meant, what was out there, and most of all, look for my boy.
How did you learn that he had been killed?
I had a phone call one evening. I was at home working, and it was a reporter. And
it looks like we have just lost the signal. That is Christine.
You think?
There
it is.
Now it's even, rather.
Boom.
I don't know. I apologize
Government.
to her.
Sorry, you're not going to talk about that.
All
right, folks. If that doesn't convince you, if looking into the false flag facts of Sandy Hook doesn't convince you that it was a false flag, look, most of you, or well, some of you anyway, will be old enough to remember the Gulf of Tonkin. Google it, all right? It's the first time, to my knowledge, that the United States government literally lied to its citizenry to enter into and continue the Vietnam War. The Gulf of Tonkin was a big lie hoisted upon us by the United States government. And everyone was outraged. Oh my goodness. 1970s, the Nixon tapes. He deletes 18 minutes of a tape. We've got the State Department admitting now, only because they got caught, that they deleted video and transcripts of the fact that the administration lied to us about the Iran deal. Folks, these folks that are in charge right now are nothing but a bunch of liars. They have lifted off the blessings of God, and this is why all these things are starting to happen at the same time, whether the economy crashes, or it's floods, or it's earthquakes, or it's invasions by terrorists, ISIS terrorists. It is the end of the world as we know it, but I feel fine because I know in whom I have believed, and I am convinced that he, meaning Jesus, is able to keep that which he has promised against that day. I hope you have a great weekend. I'm going to come back next week. We're going to talk a little bit about 666, June 6th, 2016, and how the gates of hell may absolutely, in reality, be released. But we'll talk about that next week. In the meantime, you have a great weekend. Enjoy your family. Enjoy your friends. I'm your host of Current Christian Commentary and News, Pastor Steve. End of the world as we know it, but I feel fine. Yeah, the government. We're here from the government. We're here to help. See you guys.